Hey, Geekscapists, welcome to a brand new Geekscape podcast. I'm Jonathan London, your host, and I just realized maybe you're listening to a Geekscape like in the future. Maybe this is a year later. You're catching up on Geekscape because we've been doing this for 15 years, and we know we have about 1,000 episodes on the feed. And you're like, hey, I'm going to go listen to episode 625 because I want to learn like what they thought about the Adam Project, which we'll be talking about here. That's the new Reynolds movie on Netflix. I have to really consciously not have marbles in my mouth with these intros, Geekscapists. And maybe you wanted to go see what was happening in March of 2022. So you go back to episode 625 and Jonathan yells, hey, welcome to a brand new Geekscape, but it's not so new. So you know what? I'm just going to say welcome to Geekscape. This is episode 625, and we've got a good one for you. We will be talking about Ryan Reynolds' The Adam Project, which is on Netflix, and I think select theaters, but this is one I kind of wanted to see in theaters. I watched it on Netflix. I thought it was great. We'll get to that. Our friend Ashley Robinson, I think she kept her maiden name, Ashley Inman Robinson. We're going to talk to her about that whole thing. She is here to talk about her new Kickstarter project, Aurora and the Eagle. This is a Canadian superhero book. I was like, whoa, this ain't out already? Like, you know, that's just what happens when you're friends with people. They tell you about their awesome ideas, and then when the awesome ideas start to see the outside world, you're like, oh my God, I've been hearing about this awesome idea for a very long time. Like, it's finally here. This is cool. Speaking of old ideas that have started to see the world, we have our Geekscape short film, El Rey. Woo! It's in a festival. It starts online at the Malibu Film Festival next week. So I think between the 20th and the 27th of March, you can go to the Malibu Film Festival website when you Google it, and you can say, hey, like I want a $4 pass, $5 pass, something like that. Maybe it's a $7 pass to watch some of the Malibu Film Festival select films. We're one of them, El Rey, and you can watch it. It's kind of a fun movie. It's a family film. It's a Mexican woman who is based on my mom, and her husband has been coming home one too many nights too late. So she says, you know what? I think that you are up to something and you're a rat. And he's like, please, it's nothing. I'm just coming home late from work. It's really nothing. And that night she looks at the cross as she goes to bed, and she says a little prayer. She says, you know what, God, it'd be easier if he was a rat. And sure enough, she wakes up the next morning and there's a rat in her bed and no husband. So uh-oh. It's like a fun family Mexican Kafka-esque movie where now she has to turn her husband back into a rat, or maybe she doesn't. Who knows? Maybe that's better. So that's finally out. It's got a big fat Geekscape logo on the front end of that film, so that's fun. If you are looking for Geekscape content, we got tons of it. There's our Geekscape TV YouTube page. We're going to be premiering all sorts of fun stuff like that, like my sit down with showrunner Rockney O'Bannon, who I named Geekscape after because he was the showrunner of Farscape, my favorite sci-fi show. What else we got? Oh, did you listen to those $2 late fee kids? They had Don the Dragon Wilson on their podcast. That was awesome. I got to watch live. Maybe you're watching Geekscape live on YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook, or maybe LinkedIn. Looking for a new job, huh? Listen to Geekscape while you do it. Maybe you're listening on Twitter. That siren, if you hear it in the background, is Matt Kelly trying to get a new podcast on the network. But you know what? I'm getting ahead of myself. We have a podcast right here. Yeah, that's Matt Kelly. He just added a podcast to the network. It's probably like, hey, which 80s serials are the best? It's a podcast about that. Which is your favorite muscle figure? I don't know. Remember those little muscle guys, those little pink guys? Matt Kelly does. All right. Let's get the show started, Geekscape. You didn't come here for this. You came here to see Ashley and Katie drop the knowledge on this little buffoon called your host, Jonathan. Let's get going. Hey, Geekscape, and you know what? While we were running that theme song, Matt seemed to have either started a whole new network with the shows or World War 18. Because a lot of sirens went past my window. Who knows? Maybe I'm in mortal danger. It doesn't matter. I'm doing a show for you. So maybe one day you're going to look in the future and say, hey, look, you can actually see when the video cuts out and he dies, and you're watching this on something, and you're like, look, dude, you can see his face start to incinerate right before the video like goes out. I guess he was really close to the nuclear blast. I don't know. We're getting morbid. You know what? Let's balance this with some actual sane people. I think they're sane. You be the judge. First up is my co-host, Katie. She is insane. Sometimes you can find her in the membrane.
Sometimes.
And she's doing all right. Matt Kelly says, I'm fully prepared to escape into the Geekscape. He said that right before we started. I would like to see if he still thinks that he's prepared now. Chris Favalios is there. He's the host of One Hit Thunder.
Heck yeah.
One of the best shows on the network. And he just said, you know what? If we're talking about muscle figures, the four-armed guy is my favorite. You know what? The four-armed guy is a lot of people's favorites. That's like saying that the Amazonian fish dude is your favorite, character in the old Nintendo NES pro wrestling video game. Like, that is just a go-to. Yeah, it's a go-to, dude. You're gonna play as the Amazonian dude.
He had like the muscles on top, and then like he had like another extra set coming out of like his torso.
Yeah, let's just say what you're thinking. Goro totally ripped him off for Mortal Kombat.
Oh, I see.
How was that not a lawsuit?
I don't know.
Is that one of the ones? They should have made a muscles figure
where you squeezed his torso and like the muscle just like popped. Wasn't there one?
I think. Are you thinking Stretch Armstrong? No, Stretch Armstrong. You just pull his limbs, but I don't.
Yeah, you pull those out. I feel like there was one that really, or maybe I'm thinking of like something that like they parodied on a movie or something like that. But like, I felt like you squeezed the torso and his muscles just like went bam, which may or may not have been integral to me being agog at my own fiance's muscles. Just keep pushing his belly. Make it bigger.
Chris Falio says Mortal Kombat was always ripping off muscle men. Hey, I'm just gonna ask Chris, before we get ourselves like sued for some stupid reason, can you stop with the hot takes, Mr. Chris? Hot takes Fafalios. These little jerks put a One Hit Thunder up about a Canadian artist, and she found it. And she's like, these damn Yankees think that we're a one-hit wonder. I've never heard of this lady. That's okay. She's probably really talented and amazing. I know Ashley Robinson probably thinks she's a national treasure back in Canada. But we'll talk to her about that in a bit. But this woman, they do these one-hit thunders every week. And they're talking about this one lady. I never heard of the song. I never heard about her. She finds it on Twitter. And she sicks like her entire Canadian posse, including the Saint Bernard with the alcohol in the barrel on its neck, like after them. You know what I mean? Like she, like the same way, like
Well, I mean, it's something to be said about people who have a wide fan base that you might be making some commentary on. Everybody's got their own opinions.
Okay. Well, maybe I'm just living in a cave because maybe you've heard of her, Katie. This is Jan Arden. She has multiple TV shows. She was a Canadian artist. She has a show called Jan on Hulu. Listen, the only thing I watch on Hulu is nothing. No, I do watch stuff on Hulu. I do watch on Hulu. I watched that Pam and Tommy show on Hulu. Those are some good performances.
Crazy and great.
It's crazy. And then I watch all sorts of stuff. She's also working mom.
Shout out to the musical score to Pam and Tommy. Just putting that out there. Really great.
All right. We're not here to talk about those other podcasts on the network. Sorry, Matt Kelly. I'm sorry.
Or Fafalios. No.
But we got Ashley here. We got our own Canadian. We don't need to be talking about the Canadians that they're over there besmirching on One Hit Thunder. We can talk about we can besmirch our own Canadian right here.
Let's get our own hot take.
Here's Ashley Robinson.
Not me panic tweeting when you bring me in.
You know what? She had ample warning that she was going to come on this show.
I gotta know.
It's only Jonathan can ramble forever, can he?
Yes,
you impress me every single time. I'm not gonna lie.
In what way? Just like the moronic, like DS4 that comes out of my mouth?
Oh, I mean, I was gonna start with like the handsomeness, but we can jump right to that. Sure.
No, let's go with the stupid.
You do look. You both look very, very lovely today.
You do as well. I'm loving the hair. It's like perfectly cut.
I just got it cut like 3 days ago. So let's not pretend that I made any of this happen. All power to Caitlin in Woodland Hills.
Yeah.
And one of my pandemic skills I learned was how to put on makeup for the camera. It's like the only thing I learned was how to do a basic face.
You are from the theater.
Yeah, but I used to say that I don't wear makeup unless I'm being paid to, but then you like get on camera enough with people who actually wear makeup and you're like, I gotta just do something. Also, all the self-tapes happened. Like now we don't leave our house to audition. So
a lot of self-tapes. I don't think I've figured it out yet, but
the masks are coming off. I'm like Indiana Jones, and I sometimes play college professor at the local university, local college, and they have gotten rid of the masks. They said, hey, you can still wear the masks. We all wear masks, but you don't have to. I'm going to keep it. It's like, wear a mask, go to the dentist. Wear a mask, go to the dentist. I'm going to wear the mask.
I am too. I'm fully vaccinated. I'm all for, the health, and like, I'm glad that we're lifting some of the restrictions. I'm still going to wear it mostly.
Oh, I just want to brush my fucking teeth, Katie. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, well, that's not what I was going for. I was just, I didn't want to look like a Republican. But that's just me. And like, everybody has their own thing, but I personally am a big fan of the mask.
I did say that to a friend. I was like, I'm going to keep wearing the mask just to like let people know I'm better than them.
I just want like more things on my face. Like I want the mask and the sunglasses and the big floppy hat, so that way I don't have to smile, frankly, and I don't have to check my face.
Anonymity as possible.
Yeah, I won't tell the full story, but at the beginning of the pandemic, a frustrating social situation happened, and I had all that headgear on, and I was like, I'm so glad nobody can see my face because I am livid right now.
Did you have like dental stuff going on?
No. I just meant like all the covering. No, I had braces and dental surgery as a teenager because I come from a country with healthcare.
Listen, I had to have the braces. I fell off a balcony when I was like 3 at a daycare, and you know what? That bill was on them. The daycare footed the bill until Jonathan was 18 years old and fixing my teeth. I had braces all through middle school, and I had retainers and this and that whole headgear thing. I didn't have headgear. I never had headgear.
You never had headgear? Oh, it's just the best, especially in sleepovers when you had to put that thing in. You just slide that metal on metal in the back of your teeth. Oh, it's the worst.
And glasses, like.
Yeah, I had the glasses. I had the rat tail mullet.
Okay, I didn't have that.
But now I want to ask, but did you lose your virginity in high school?
I did.
Good.
See, then there are no barriers. Nobody can complain.
Yeah. And that teacher still teaches there.
Wait, what?
I'm kidding.
Confessions on Geekscape.
Hopefully,
suddenly entering into the gotcha journalism world of the internet.
Hopefully you weren't driving home when you were listening to this, driving to work, and you didn't just laugh and rear end things. No, we were the same age. Everything was nice. It was nice. It was a good 10 seconds of my life. It was very memorable.
Really
Matt Kelly says he's had no braces, headgear, never a broken bone. I would say God can only be so punishing, Matt. Why would they add that? Oh, I should put the comment on the screen.
Welcome back to Geekscape.
I don't deserve friends. I had to do a Geekscape in person last week. I had Michael Uslan, who's a executive producer of that new Batman movie, on Geekscape, and he came right over to this house and sat with me on the couch, and that was I had to brush my teeth. I had to do all this stuff. I had to fix stuff up. We got wedding stuff in the living room.
Didn't have the mask on, is what you're saying.
No mask. No, listen, he and I, we were like, hey man, you good? I was like, yeah, I'm good. We checked the LA numbers. We said, you good though? You good? I checked his temp. He checked my temp. We did buddy system. I don't know what I'm saying anymore.
Swab each other.
Yeah. They were holding hands the entire time.
At this, I don't want to be like one of those people who are like, it's a hoax, but the numbers are very, very, very good. And I was going to be like, hey, if Michael's cool with it, I'm cool with it. Michael, come to my house. Let's do this Geekscape. We had a great Geekscape. And I only expected it to be like a hour-long conversation. Geekscape is go back in the feed once you're done with this, especially if you've seen the Batman. There's no spoilers on it. But we had a 2-hour conversation about comics and Batman and how he worked with Sam Raimi to make the Shadow movie and all this crazy stuff that I just loved. It was a geek just
it was really
throw
cool.
down.
It was also cool to see you in the same space. Like I don't know how that felt for you, but it was interesting to see like you know, everybody together in one spot talking about the same things and having an immediate reaction, as opposed to sort of, you know, our social distancing that we're doing.
I would like to do that more.
Yeah.
Except Ashley's in the other room.
I mean, based on the colors of the wall, I very well could be.
It feels like we're all just in separate rooms in the same location.
In full transparency,
hey, Katie,
Jonathan and I are with.
Can you close your door? I can hear an echo. Yeah. Well, Katie's right over there.
Oh,
Ashley's right over there. I passed Ashley's
all
house.
in a bubble right now.
I passed your house today, Ashley. I was coming back from Heidi and I had a little tasting for our wedding coming up, where we were tasting the different menu items for what we might have at the wedding. And
did you see any of the 12 stray cats that live in the garage?
No, I didn't stop at your place.
Cats. They sleep on top of the car sometimes. It's a real blessing.
Oh, you weren't too happy with your last place,
no.
Ash.
The ceiling
is this place
leaked.
better? No, the ceiling leaked, and to stop it, they lit the place on fire. That was.
Oh yeah, that's
your place was insane.
Technically, our building wasn't on fire. The one attached to us was on fire. But my cat did knock a votive candle and burned out part of the wall. So technically, like, part of the apartment was on fire. But one time we actually had to like evacuate because it was on fire. And Jason was at Emerald City Comic-Con, and I had to call him and be like, "What do you love that I can carry out of here in my arms?"
He shared that show. He shared that on the show Geekscape, as it is a riveting tale of a man getting on a plane and not knowing when he landed if he has a house.
Yeah,
like if he has a place to live. He doesn't know if she's alive. He doesn't know how to reach her. He's on the plane for like white knuckling it from Emerald City, being like, I really hope my house is there. My cat's alive.
Yeah. So that place was bad. This place is less bad, but I feel like everywhere you live in LA is kind of bad if you're a renter.
It's always got something.
Yeah, if you're a renter, yeah.
I don't want to disabuse anyone. I'm not rich enough to own, so I'm definitely still in that
Los Angeles. I don't know how frequently you look at Redfin or anything like that, but it's kind of amazing the prices that you get for like some pretty deep fixer-uppers.
Yeah. They always put it at like 900, hoping that you'll offer $1 million, and I was like, no.
Right. Well, and even in condos too. I love that we're getting into this, but this is like talking about the roads in LA, but it's kind of ridiculous. Like I told my dad, who's like, "You guys thinking about maybe like getting a home someday?" I was like, "Yeah, it's a nice wild dream."
Yeah, I'm thinking about getting one in Big Bear.
Right.
You know what I mean?
When my dad says like, "Hey, why don't y'all, instead of paying rent every month, invest in like, why are y'all interested in getting a home?" I said, "Yeah, check your ticker." Yeah, let's see. I'm eyeing a property right now. We just got to check your health. Just make sure you keep ticking there, pal.
How's that will?
Let's see. Let's see what's going on here. We didn't sit here to talk about no Zillow. This ain't Zillowscape. This is Geekscape. So we got to talk about Ashley here. She's got this brand new comic, which, like El Rey, like it sounds like something we've talked about forever, and now it's finally out. Like this Aurora and the Eagle. I remember you first telling me about Aurora and the Eagle, so maybe that's a segue into telling me the origin story of your comic.
So in 2019, I did release Aurora the Eagle, and Geekscape was actually the first podcast I ever talked about it on, so it's really nice to be back. But so in 2019...
Hold on, Matt Kelly's talking shit. He says, Geekscape, bring those relatable topics to its global audience like LA rent costs. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Meanwhile, this knucklehead gets on his podcast and he talks about the most like idiosyncratic thing that nobody cares about, which I made fun of earlier. Like,
he is your one audience view
right now. And it's like,
don't shit on
bro. I'm sitting here going, hey man, don't throw stones in glass houses, pal.
But who else am I supposed to talk about Love is Blind with? Matt and I had a great time.
Yo, homie, listen, I'm just gonna let Matt know. Homie literally posts, and he's been doing this for, I believe, a decade, like the 90s song of the day. And he'll put, have you seen that on his Facebook, the 90s song of the day? And he'll post it on thing. There's a text going on. I'm not gonna say who's on it, where we then talk about Matt's 90s song of the day.
Oh no.
And we talk about maybe like who wants to intervene.
Oh no.
Based on like, did he pick a popular song? Did he pick an obscure song? Like, we try and guess Matt's emotional state
based on the song.
The who gives a fuck shit that they puts on the internet.
I feel like but isn't that all of our Instagram stories?
It really is. Yeah. Like, I mean, how many things? Like, I'm obsessed with my cats, and I know that like I'm just like the insane cat lady that like just posts about videos and like moments of my cats. I'm retiring it.
Matt says he's retiring the 90s.
Well, it's probably because of your little text thread.
What have I done?
Yeah. You've ruined. Like, don't
shame on you and upon your house. Shame on your family and your family's cows.
Shame.
I was doing it in secret.
Shame.
We were doing it out of love. If we actually didn't care, we wouldn't have said anything.
Oh,
we care, Matt. Matt,
you should honestly. You've done all that research. You should be pitching that as a book to like Mango or some of those publishing houses that love podcasters, because it'd be a good coffee table book.
And somebody loves podcasters? Hold on, I want to know about that.
Well, since Conan O'Brien invented podcasting, it's because
I remember that. Yes,
2019.
I remember that Entertainment Weekly.
Yeah,
it was
it was funny. Jonathan, you were talking about your thousands of episodes. I've done a lot of podcasts recently, try to promote Aurora and the Eagle, and I'm always like, yeah, we just crossed episode 400, been in the game for a minute, because we're all, I'm on like people's like episode 8, episode 25, and please, if you want to start a project, like I absolutely advocate for starting projects, and this is one of the only networks I can come on and you can be like 400, like that's cute. I've had a beer once too.
That's nice. Usually we condescend you for being a female, but here we condescend you for being a noob.
I'm kidding. We don't do that here on Geekscape.
I say very specific reference only for me.
Actually, Matt Kelly wants to know when you do bring your podcast to our network. He says, let's not kickstart Aurora and the Eagle. Let's kickstart Ashley's comic book and then kickstart getting it. Geek History Lesson as part of the Geekscape Network. That's Matt sitting there throwing his cards on the table, but we'll get to that. Whatever.
Once we hear,
I will fully say I'm not in charge of stuff like that. So don't be throwing stones at my glass house. Throw them at Jason's.
Okay. Speaking of Jason says, you know what? When is Ashley Robinson going to write the Super Action Man comic tie-in? Don't you know how much she loves patriotic Speedos? And I got to tell you, yeah, sure. I would welcome an actual writer on that show, on that series anytime.
Super Action gal.
Ooh,
sure.
A tie-in.
Or she's lesbian alternate universe.
I think the superpower with that comic book is it's been adverse to good ideas this entire time. Like, why would we start adding some? Sure. Let's have it. Yeah. Let's go.
Oh boy.
Yeah. We're just gonna keep being self-referential here, as Bolt T says, sure thing, Matt, you're retiring 90s song of the day. The live show is the last episode of Geekscape too. Buy a bridge. All right. Ashley says Matt says Ashley can write the Sam Elseworld story. Yeah, no, if Warner Brothers doesn't sue me at the wazoo,
or we'll call it like Super Polite Man, and he can be Canadian.
Yes,
plaid, all of that.
Mm-hmm. I like where you see already with the good ideas. So tell me about this last good idea. We've been just not. Did any of these other podcasts actually get to the top of your comic?
Or do they just kind of skirt around the whole Aurora and the Eagle thing? But tell us about Aurora and the Eagle. I know it's been a minute.
Yeah. So I did it in 2019 initially because that was when I applied for my American citizenship. Yay! And then in 2020, I became an American citizen. Yay!
Right about the pandemic.
So that was the first 20 pages. And it was just a digital issue, and it was designed basically to raise the funds so that I could stay in the country and not be deported. And this is this way. I don't know spatial relations. A new piece of art from the campaign. I don't know. I'm very bad. I can't walk into an apartment if I don't.
You're doing great. Most of the people are listening to this, so they're just like, "What the fuck am I supposed to be looking at right now?" And then they veer off the road and die.
Thank you.
Continue. Yeah.
But it's basically an exploration of superheroes and like identity politics. It was an idea that I had when I first moved to the United States, and it stars Aurora Borealis, who, it might shock you, has the power of the Northern Lights. She is Canada's national superhero, and following the death of her predecessor, she's invited by the Unity League, which is like, think Global Justice League, to immigrate to the United States to train with the Eagle, who is like the most badass American superhero. And when I first came up with the idea, I always knew that around page 50, there was going to be a reveal, and that was going to kind of springboard Aurora from being a legacy character sidekick into being a superhero in her own right. I'm very interested in that type of storytelling. Robin is my favorite hero. I think Nightwing is Batman's only success. If Jason Inman is listening to this, yes, that is your argument. I heard that from you first, that it is correct. So I wanted to do that with my own original heroes. The original digital issue was 20 pages. This is 48 being very close to page 50 when that reveal happens. And this is going to be in print for the first time. So it's the original 20 pages. Some of the art has been retouched by my fellow Canadian comic creator, Emmanuelle Chateauneuf, who's back. And she drew 28 new pages that I scripted just for this. We funded it in 24 hours, and we just crossed our stretch goal of colored pages, like the people who are watching this can see. Which are colored by Ali Von Ortiz, who is our amazing colorist. It was important to me to have as many women on the book as possible and as many international folks as possible. And Ali Von is based in Mexico. So I have like the full NAFTA alliance.
I was just going to say, you have your own international, Justice League of Females, like creating this beautiful artwork.
Thank you. And then my two cover artists, Lightning Strikes, if you're like in the Voltron fandom or you're in anime, you know her from Instagram. She is from Australia. And then my other cover artist is Connor Hughes, who draws White Ash. He's like the Prince of Kickstarter. He's American. So yeah, I just have like my own little, and Carlos Mangual, my letter, is also American, but I have my own little United Nations of comic book creators for this story.
That is what you're going to have to call it.
Ooh, that red banner. Somebody has a survey to fill out to get their reward.
I do need to fill out a survey. That's from our good friends in the Stereo, who were a few episodes ago. That episode did awesome. But yeah, I'll fill that out. The Kickstarter on the Stereo was crazy. That was awesome, and I'm glad that band is back. But let's talk about your Kickstarter. You're 2,000 over, so you got over your goal. So you got color pages. Yes. And our good friend Star, who is Katie's friend too, says, I just jumped on, that artwork looks amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Of all the comic book artists that I have collaborated with, I give Emmanuelle the most freedom because she has such a unique and interesting point of view, and she makes everything that I do better. So I usually write full script, but working with her, I'm just like, here, you'll figure this out. Like, the pages are incredible without any color on them, and then they're even better when they're rendered in 3D. So I couldn't be happier. And Emmanuelle does a lot of stuff, like you can see on that first page, where she breaks panels and she plays with format. And I think it's such a whimsical bent to the story that I hadn't initially thought of. And awesome. given what happens a little later, there's a lot more violence. It's definitely still like an all ages, like friendly kind of story, but to see it rendered out with such Miyazaki inspired whimsy is kind of a wild experience, and I'm the one who wrote it.
And how is that, like, seeing this kind of fully come to fruition and be fully invested in? Like, what is that like? Just seeing all of it kind of come together.
What is success like?
Just curious.
Just so nobody has like two rose-colored glasses. I technically don't make a page rate off of this unless we double fund. So Kickstarter is a beautiful thing that can bring stuff like this into real life. Now, I don't know if you can hear, but the police planes are coming for me.
Oh, great. More podcasts on your end too.
Very
okay.
Loud, very, very loud. Yeah, Jonathan and I will be whisked away by the end of this. But yeah. The best thing about Kickstarter and Patreon, this is not my idea either, my statement, but they're the best things that have happened to creators in 20 years. And
it's not NFTs.
I'm not going to pretend that I even understand what an NFT is. So
it's all in that Bitcoin range.
No.
Well,
watch me be on here in 10 years, like promoting my NFT. So cancel me now, I guess. I don't know. But it's, it's super, super gratifying. And the best thing that happens is when people come and support your project who are new people, like Geekscape. I've been around long enough that I know like my handful of like core supporters who are always there no matter what, and like they are my absolute angels. But it's amazing when somebody comes and finds this, and then by the egalitarian nature of the internet, they can support it and be a part of the like Team Aurora and my creative family as well. That's the most gratifying. Mm. When I get my print copies, that might become the most gratifying. But for right now, it's all the new folks coming, because this has been inside of me since like 2010, and now it's finally becoming a reality the way I want it to, rather than out of desperation to not be deported. We like this version much better.
Are you in any danger of being deported?
No, and truly, I was never really in any danger. I'm a white lady with no accent, but that's the thing that could have happened. When you become an American citizen, by the way, I won't show it to you because you could forge my identity. They send you this huge, like 8.5 by 11 printout. I have this giant certificate certifying my citizenship of these United. It's like a birth certificate.
Does it have like stars and stripes and like eagles just like flying across it?
Yeah.
Is it signed by the president at the time?
I think it is. No, it is signed by the person who swore me in the garden out back of the building across from the ICE prison in downtown LA.
Oh, I know that ICE prison.
Yep. We were in the Rose Garden that's behind it, which is a real trip to be like so happy to be here and not on the other side of that fence.
Yeah. Fair. Yeah, that's sad. And real.
Yeah.
It's very real. It's a real and true thing that happened.
So you're here to stay. Aurora and the Eagle. Geekscape, go to auroraandtheeagle.com. And it'll take you right to the Kickstarter, and you can see all sorts of. Let's just get her paid. Let's get her. Let's try and double that.
Yeah, let's double it up.
Yeah, because also that way I can start working on the next issue with a lot more expediency. But my favorite rewards that are on there are like script advice or Kickstarter consultations and stuff like that, because I've been doing Kickstarters long enough that some projects I have given notes on in the past have become successful Kickstarters of their own. So I feel like Jonathan is, and he's going to blush, but like a real mentor to people trying to enter the digital space in terms of podcasting and production. I know like Geekscape was something that we really looked up to when we were starting Geek History Lesson. And now I like to think that we're peers, and I want to be able to do that for other people as well, because it seems really scary when you've never taken that step on your own.
Yeah. I still get scared as hell when I throw something out there. This artwork, like, it's pretty awesome. It reminds me of like early pages of Mage, you know.
Ooh, yeah.
And that kind of stuff. And those are all comics that also start with like a kind of an open cartoon style. This one has a little bit of a manga feel to it, but then gets into serious subject matter, and it's pretty awesome. I think like Jeff Smith, obviously Bone is another one good. That like starts out like, is this a cartoon? Is this like a, you know, silly cartoon book? And then it starts to deal with like serious stuff. And obviously you love Bone because you love Lord of the Rings.
That's true.
Stuff like that. And Bone's
it always startles me how hot Emmanuel draws the eagle, because I very much think of him as like a paternal mentor, like daddy, but not like in that kind of way.
Not a zaddy.
And he is so
not a leather
hot.
daddy.
It's like distressing.
All right, just typing in the website right now.
I mean, look, Axel Braun, if you would like to license the rights for an adult parody, I'm very open.
I love this kind of solicitation.
So you remember, this is a couple of years, maybe before we were friends, but Axel Braun used to collaborate with us a lot, because Axel Braun Geekscape is the director who does adult versions of the fan stuff, and he is such a hardcore nerd, and I really like Axel a lot. And he would have some of our Geekscape writers like William Bibiani and Brian Gilmore down to the sets of like the Star Trek one or this and that, and they would mainly show up on like the non-sex days where Axel's really getting into like the story stuff. And I'd hear about these visits, and I'd hear about like they would release these DVDs where it was like you could watch the pornographic version of the Star Trek episode, or you could watch it with the sex removed. And supposedly he's such a geek that the episode without the sex is actually just a really good classic Trek episode. And I remember him getting like really excited because he's like, my Fantastic Four movie has Diablo in it, and like when is the MCU ever going to do Diablo as the villain, and when are they going to do Fantastic Four right? I've got him in costumes. All my stuff is a costume just like out of the book. And so as a gag at the Geekscape booth one year, we had some of his actors show up at the booth and sign autographs for kids and stuff in costume, and the parents knew who they were. So, you know, kids are taking photos with these adult performers in costume and stuff, and it was a fun little joke, and it was fun, and everybody enjoyed themselves, and we were, you know, everything was above board and on the level. And Axel and I go take a lap around the
floor.
The floor, right? And he's just pointing out left and right. He's like, look at that Superman costume. My Superman costume's better. That Superman costume sucks. This and that. And I was like, dude, like, you gotta chill. Like, that is a 15-year-old kid who just, like, you know,
really excited. Yeah.
But then the flip side is that Axel's like a huge geek and he wants to have the detail, and like he wants his Captain Marvel to look like Captain Marvel even when Deadpool's banging her and stuff. Like,
I will always remember when the Adrian, is it Palicki or Padalecki? Yeah. I'm so sorry, I can't remember.
The hummingbird.
Respectful. Yes, when her Wonder Woman pilot
Mockingbird
came out.
She played Mockingbird on S.H.I.E.L.D. She was the Wonder Woman in the pilot.
But everyone kept comparing. I think it was the same year that his Justice League movie came out, and everyone kept comparing their costumes because he had a more legit Wonder Woman costume. Yeah,
and that Wonder Woman never aired, correct?
I don't know if it only aired at cons or if only I mean, I know you can find the pilot if you are inclined to such threads on the internet.
Yeah,
but
and Pedro Pascal's in that one too.
Is he really?
Like Pedro Pascal? Yeah, Pedro Pascal's in the failed TV.
I've never seen it
as well.
Yeah,
he's in it.
That? Yeah.
Which is crazy because obviously he played.
I guess he won.
In the new one. Yeah. He's like, I get a redo on this Wonder Woman thing, so that was kind of cool.
What a weird small world.
All right.
Tons of geek content coming out, Geekscape. And I don't know how I'm going to handle it for y'all. Like, obviously, we got Moon Knight coming up in a little bit. Matt, Ian and I are going to sit through Morbius for you guys because we love you.
Thank you.
Oh, good, because I don't want to see it, but I want your
thoughts on it. I don't know. I'm like telling the story. I'll see how it is.
The number one thing I want it to be is, because it's coming out on April Fool's Day.
Yes.
What if there's no movie? What if it's a joke? What if they just shot the trailer?
What if they show
I would
Blade?
pay $15 for that.
Right?
If I'd pay $50 to see Blade in the theater, hell yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so Geekscape, this is what we got going on. We got the Morbius coming up. We've got Moon Knight coming up. We've got I don't know if we're not we got the new trailer for Miss Marvel this morning, so that's cool. And then we got Halo coming up, which is getting lukewarm reviews.
Yeah.
But
all the boys I dated in high school with my glasses and my braces are so happy.
Oh,
that's finally happening.
They must all be Geekscapists now because like Shane went off and spent $800 on a laser sword or something from.
Yeah.
He got the Alaskan kickback where it's like, thank you for living in Alaska
and letting us
we will now give you money for living in Alaska. He took that thing and instead of like investing in it or putting it away, he went and bought one of those like replica laser swords.
Well, and how else are you going to, decorate an airport hangar? Right?
I don't know. Matt Kelly, I got the same email Geekscape as he says, Regal sent me an email yesterday telling me I better pre-order my tickets to the next Marvel Legend, Morbius. And they've been advertising this thing Sony has where it's like the next Marvel Legend. And I'm like, yo, he's barely in the comics. Like,
do you think they know that's the name of an action figure line?
Marvel Legends? Yeah. I don't even know if he has a Marvel Legends. You know who does? You know this. Maggot.
Mr. Sinister?
Maggot is getting his own Marvel Legends.
I did that.
That's Katie's favorite.
It's my favorite, like, D-list.
Yeah, ever since Matt Kelly, the card master, pulled that out at our LA Comic-Con episode.
I'm obsessed.
There it is. Obsessed with Maggot.
Someone send her one.
Yeah. I'm not expecting Morbius to be good. But Geekscapists, that's never been the point with Geekscape, was for it to be good or anything it to be good. It's like we just want you to be entertained. Speaking of something I did not expect to be good and thought was awesome was the Atom Project, Ryan Reynolds. It's like it was good. It was really good.
It almost reminded me like of an 80s action movie. Like it's just pure fun.
Not even that. It's got like family stuff in it. It's got a little bit of ET. It's got a little bit of Flight of the Navigator. It's got a lot of like this really great stuff, and Jennifer Garner's great in it. Everybody's really good in it.
Yeah.
I love her. The kid's amazing.
No, and I love Jennifer Garner ever since Alias came out. Like, I'm a huge fan, but like we haven't seen her except for in the commercials, like telling us to buy like credit cards and stuff. And it's like, great, cool, Capital One, awesome. But you know, we haven't seen her like perform in something. And I forgot just like how much heart she can really bring to a character. And her and Ryan Reynolds, there was a beautiful scene in a bar that had me weeping. And I didn't think that Ryan Reynolds would like make me feel something other than like, you know, tingles.
What's up, bro?
But you know, but like really,
you
like
and me both.
Good to know. Good to know.
This is California. Don't be so pedestrian.
I'm a California straight.
Okay. But also
one of my friends once described me like that. So Geekscape this movie is about in 2050 time travel is possible, but to do time travel, there are these jets that you fly in that can shoot a wormhole in space, you know, forward in space. You shoot through the wormhole and you like the DeLorean, you have to put in your coordinates. And we start the movie and he is stealing his fighter pilot time jet to go back to the year 2018. He screws up, he goes back to 2022 and he discovers his 12-year-old self, which he's not supposed to do, but because the ship is tied into his like own biorhythms and things like that, he has to use his 12-year-old self to turn so for the ship to start repairing itself because it's blasted to pieces. It's really rough shape in the opening. Why has he gone back in time, which is something that is illegal? Why has he stolen one of his own ships? Because he's an Air Force person to go back in time and stop something. Well, that's part of the mystery. But once this little kid who plays the young Ryan Reynolds, once that kid comes on screen, and Ryan Reynolds I think is amazing, but once this kid comes on screen, who I was like, did they just find a kid who's a really good actor and CGI Ryan Reynolds into this kid? Because he's so Ryan Reynolds like down to the delivery, their chemistry is amazing, and the story's really good.
It's really good. It's like there's tons of heart, which is always one of my big things when it comes to stories. Like if you have heart, like you've got me hooked. But the kid, they were doing a lot of like commercial campaigns beforehand, and him acting as Ryan Reynolds, I was like, I don't understand how he's not Junior Deadpool or something like that. He's nailing it. He's
nailing it. Their back and forth is hilarious.
Deadpool. I'd love to ask, because I haven't seen it yet, how would you both compare it to something like Free Guy? Because obviously that was like really popular last
year. Same director. It's Sean Levy who did Night of the Museum, and he did some of the
soon to do Deadpool. Speaking of Deadpool,
and he did he did the little thing called the Stranger Things. He directed a couple of episodes of that as a producer on that
series.
No one's heard of it.
So he can work with kids. I thought this was awesome, and right up there with Free Guy as far as being a surprising, fun, original film.
And that was a movie that really took me by surprise, just like how deep they went with that. And I'm very excited because I think there might be rumors of a second movie coming out, or maybe that's
stockholders say yes.
Yes,
stockholders say
yes. Right. But you know, like whether that comes to fruition or not, you know, that's in the cards. But the originality and like the shocking, like, oh, this isn't like a Marvel produced. This isn't a Sony produced. This isn't DC produced. Like, this is a fully Netflix produced, very original idea. And I was like, I want more of like this world, this universe, these people. Like it was so good. And the action was kind of mind-bendingly good. I was like, how are they doing? And also I didn't really watch any trailers or anything like that. It's one of my favorite things to do, is just go completely blinded to something and it be phenomenal. Well, but I didn't realize that Zoe Saldana was in it either. And I was like, wait a minute, is there Zoe Saldana? What is she doing in this? And it kind of feels like if they did a Hulk Deadpool movie, but like just set it in a different universe in a way.
Mark Ruffalo's great.
Ruffalo's fantastic. And then, you know,
and Electra's in it.
Yes,
Jennifer Garner.
Oh, I was like, Elodie Young is in this movie.
I'm cynical. Like I've been skeptical of some of the Netflix original stuff, like Red Notice. There was a Michael Bay movie that had Ryan Reynolds in it. That
was an interesting one.
I couldn't get 15 minutes into some of these movies, and it doesn't help that you're at home and like your phone's there and distractions are there. I like being captive in a theater, but
you're sitting there with your own thoughts and ideas of projects and things like
that.
This
one was great.
This one was
solid. So I think Matt Kelly will enjoy it if he hasn't seen it. Matt likes these movies with heart that have like an 80s feel to them, nostalgic feel to them. I think Flight of the Navigator is a good reference for some of this stuff. And it does time travel fairly well. It does the whole time theory fairly well. Open loop, closed loop, but what are we talking about here?
There are so many beautiful moments in this movie that I wasn't expecting. And a lot of great acting from Jennifer Garner and Mark Ruffalo, and of course Ryan Reynolds, but also the kid.
Catherine Keener, who I love.
Ooh, love her.
That's right. Yeah. Highly recommend it. Yeah.
I love Catherine Keener. Well, Matt says, hey, listen, he's in the chat. Y'all can be in the chat too. He says, hey, listen, it's on my list, but Turning Red took priority. I did not see Turning Red. I didn't get a chance to, but I'm guessing Katie, you saw it.
Yes.
I mean, the main thing about Turning Red that I bet I'm gonna love it because Pixar is Pixar. But this controversy about the reviewer who deleted their review, that was like
head of Cinema Blend.
The head of Cinema Blend.
I didn't see this.
Yeah.
Katie, this guy came out.
I couldn't be bothered to learn his last name because his take was so
said
bad.
His take was, I can't relate to this movie because it's too specific. This young Asian girl going through puberty who is into K-pop
and fan fiction. The big thing is people are like startled that she would draw a picture of two people kissing.
She's drawing fanfic. She's disobeying her parents. That's not a Disney thing at all. Like Little Mermaid never disobeyed her parents. Yes, that's a whole damn movie. Like Inside Out, the whole movie of Inside Out is disobeying her parents. If you're not a Disney character, if you obey your parents, the story doesn't happen if you obey your parents.
If you're a woman and you're an Asian woman and it's a period metaphor, that's quite threatening. And
huge, like Mulan, period metaphor.
Literally, like Mulan runs away from her family to become a Mulan. A drag queen. Like Mulan runs away from her family to be like,
that's the take.
Yo, I got a dick, and like let's fight, and like
let's climb up the poles. Yeah.
Let's go. Let's give me a sword. Like, let's go. And like,
which Mulan, one of my favorite
idiots on the internet. Yeah, these idiots on the internet are like, can't have that. Yes,
we need to work into our vocabulary. It's not for me.
Right.
And that's okay.
And that is okay. And here's the thing is that I would say it's not really K-pop that she really gets into. It's more like an NSYNC type of band. Okay. Like it's very early 2000s. Like she's got a Tamagotchi. It's, there's a lot of shout outs that I was like, oh. And I will say that this wasn't the style of female growing up that I was into or was relating to. But I loved it for what it was. Like it was a very expressive movie in like a female experience, and also generational females, where we've got an entire family of females that are there to support each other for this like very fascinating concept of like a family generational thing. And I was almost thinking
definitely like a generational trauma kind of. But we made it cute because it's a Firefox.
It's Pixar, and it's a cute,
red
like
panda.
lovable, And it's funny because it is sort of period metaphor, but it's also, I would say, almost. I feel like mental health is a big thing in Pixar right now, and I almost want to say that it was almost like a bipolar metaphor, and that's probably breaching a little bit too far. But it's like it's this side of a person that is generationally given, and they have to conduct this sort of ceremony in order to lock it away, and in her discovery of this thing and what this actually sort of expresses itself as, she's like, I'd rather accept it than lock it away. And that's the sort of generational divide that a lot of her family is like, no, push it down, push it away. We can't, like, this is like something that is grotesque and like not something we want to show the world. And
do they want to pray the gay away?
Is that kind of thing? It's not quite a gay metaphor, but there are some like this could be
it's a little more Aaron Burr, talk less, smile more kind of thing.
Yeah. And like to her, it's such shame. And what I thought was really beautiful was the friendship of her friends that you see depicted here, and how accepting they were. But not only just accepting, but like they found creative ways to like bring this out and like make this isn't just like a shameful part of her that she needs to shove away, but this is like a thing that you can also express. Which I thought was a beautiful metaphor that I can understand why a lot of incels are kind of raging about it, because they don't understand the complexities of a human being, especially a female human being or someone of color. So I thought it was a really brilliant way to express this in a very simplistic Pixar type of world.
Everyone who has kind of a bad take about this is too narrow or this is not for me, I was like, oh, so you were never young and had no friends. Okay, great. I understand.
My response to that whole idiocy is that I agree with them. As someone who is never a bug or a toy or a fish
or superhero,
I absolutely not. Like it's like Pixar. Who are these movies for? You know, I've never been a dinosaur.
Mm-hmm.
I have yet to be a monster or a robot. You need to start making movies. Or a
Scottish princess.
Make a movie about a 43-year-old failure of a man, and perhaps I'll be invested in seeing your movie.
Maybe.
You know, that's what I'm thinking. Make a movie about someone who doesn't achieve their dreams by the end of the 2-hour running time, and that is a movie that I was like, oh, I feel seen.
Well, and to that effect, I do think that like a Pixar especially is ushering in a new age of like different stories that like haven't really truly been told before. What is Matt Kelly saying?
Matt Kelly says, "Trust me, John, you're a monster to me."
Oh, that's very sweet.
My pet monster is kind of the relationship that Matt
Halloween
and I have.
Costume?
Yeah, we need to find Matt that purple monster costume with the chain, with the handcuffs that are broken from My Pet Monster. Do you remember that toy?
Nope.
With like
I'm literally just imagining Grimace. I'm not gonna lie.
That's what I was picturing in my head. The McDonald's Grimace.
He can go as My Pet Monster. I can go as Grimace. Or people would be like, "Who are you? A purple Steven Seagal?" No, I'm not massive. I'm a purple.
Then you have to win all your fights.
The Alex Steven Seagal does. Turning Red. It looks great. We're gonna have to watch it this week.
Mm-hmm. That's another one that I would say don't go in with any presuppositions or just like any ideas of what this might be or could be. Just go in to like explore and have fun. And you know, it might not be your jam, but it's still a good movie at its core.
You don't know my jam.
I know your marmalade.
You've got some inklings of my jam, but Encanto fucked me up. And I loved Onward.
Because you wanted to talk about Bruno?
Onward fucked me up. And you know what? People love that Bruno song, but I'm not necessarily I didn't think that was the best song. That's not my favorite song.
No, Luisa's song is the best song.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can I tell you my favorite hot take about Encanto? It's that I saw a tweet that said the most unrealistic thing about Encanto is that the matriarch apologized at the end. And I think that is so funny. I will laugh about it until I die.
and true. And I do think that Pixar is kind of having more like matriarch type families in their stories, which is not something that a lot of men totally vibe with.
I also need the Disney executive who is in charge of like Disney animation and Pixar to be like, hey, so in Luca, we have a character named Bruno. 6 months later, in Encanto, we have a character named Bruno. Hey, in Encanto, we deal with generational female trauma. 3 months later, in Turning Red, we deal with generational female trauma. Like all three of those movies should have been out in 3 different quarters instead of like jammed right up against each other, because there are weird overlaps in themes. And I know Pixar is its own thing, blah, 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 but there has to be some EP that signs off on the slate overall. And I'm like, literally, nobody said, hey, wait, what?
I'm sure there is.
I went to grad school with that person.
Exactly. That person did not go to grad school. That person
I guarantee you, Jennifer Lee and I went to grad school together. We went to Columbia together. And
I was like, that's a person whose family works.
She's awesome. No, Jennifer's awesome. And I'll say this about Jennifer Lee. And I am nothing but happy for Jennifer Lee. We're literally the same class at Columbia. And when we were at school, I know that I always thought of her and Phil, who co-wrote Wreck-It Ralph. they co-wrote Wreck-It Ralph together. I think Phil was on Wreck-It Ralph first, and he was like, "Hey, I need help with this," and he brought Jennifer on. And I always thought that they were like, "Hey, they were the people at grad school that already had kids, so they were like they were a little bit older than us." And I just know that Jennifer was like, no longer to me a student. She was somebody who was taking classes with me, but she had her own life. Like she had a kid. I think she'd already been in a marriage where her marriage had already ended. And the single mom, she, I think, optioned something to Leo DiCaprio's production company. And like, that's kind of hard being a single mom and like, I think living in Brooklyn, going to grad school, trying to option something like, and she's doing it. And then Phil Johnson, I think the history goes, like, asks her to work on Wreck-It Ralph with her. And that brings her into Disney, and they say, "Hey, we've got this thing that's been around for a while. It's called Frozen. We can't quite crack it. Do you want to take a look at it?" And she ended up co-writing Frozen and then sharing some of the directing credit for it. And then she was the person that could put the fires out or help break some of these stories that had probably been in the vault for a while. And she's awesome. And I think she and Alfred Molina, our own Doc Ock, got married recently. Like I keep up with Jennifer on Facebook, and I got to tell you, there is a person there. It's Jennifer. I think she's awesome. And I think that, as Matt says, like he says that Pixar and Disney are having some of their best history since the early 90s. I think there's stuff. I mean, listen, Pixar is amazing, amazing. And Disney animation has started, like, I think since Big Hero 6 and now up until now with the Encanto shit, like they're awesome. And there is absolutely a person. Whether or not they're releasing similar stuff in the same quarter, hey, man, that stuff comes down to stockholders or something. Hey, man.
But what I'm really hearing is
it's awesome.
You can put Aurora and the Eagle in her hands. That's what I'm hearing.
Yes.
I'll send her a Facebook message and see what happens.
I gotta know.
I'll be like, hey, Jennifer, what did you think of Matt Kelly's last 90s
song?
What do you think I should do?
I gotta know, what would it be like if you were to go to a con or something like that and someone dressed up as one of your characters?
It's happened. So at Phoenix Fan Fest in 2018, there was a nice little 9-year-old girl named Aspen, who must be a teenager now, which is terrifying, who was cosplaying as Jupiter Jet, and then she wanted Jupiter Jet for Halloween. So I cried. I was a grown-ass woman, and I cried. Like, that's the best. Like, I would rather see a million tiny people dress up as any character that I create than any grown person. So if you have tiny people, bring them to be dressed
like tiny people.
Like 5'1" or smaller.
Oh,
okay. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Kids or
little people. They're very sweet.
Oh my gosh, I would love it if
Napoleon wasn't sweet.
Napoleon was 5'2".
5'2". Okay.
So
it
doesn't meet the height.
Not little enough.
I would love it if you just started critiquing their outfit. Like, I don't know, like this is not quite the right.
High key though, I love low rent cosplay. Like at a Long Beach Comic-Con, I saw a nice lady dressed as Winter Soldier, and her arm was just covered in tinfoil. It was amazing.
I've seen that.
Yeah,
I've seen the tinfoil Winter Soldier.
Yep.
And I've seen the tinfoil shield for Cap and things like that. It's not bad. Not bad. A little bit of Incel Bot flashbacks for me. Katie and I remember Incel Bot from the live show.
I was so happy when I saw that thing come to life.
All right, Geekscapists. We got to wrap this thing up because Ashley's got more shows to do to promote her Kickstarter because you know what? It's her dream come true. And I want y'all to help her bring the dream to fruition. I don't mean like the comics happening. Like y'all are betting on
it's a pre-order campaign.
This is a real deal now. Like she passed her goal. We're now in stretch goal. Stretch goal called give me money, pay my rent, kid. I want to get a page rate.
Next comic going.
Let's get the next comic going. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to go to auroraandtheeagle.com, support the Kickstarter campaign, donate whatever you want. All right.
Share the link if you can't donate. That's super, super helpful as well.
Do it. Share the link. And that's what I want you all to do. I don't really ask for y'all to do too much. Maybe share Geekscape or subscribe or tell your friends about it or subscribe to one of the shows on the network. But today is what I want y'all to do. Auroraandtheeagle.com as you're listening.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
As you're listening right now, just tweet it out. Tweet it out, Facebook it, put it out there.
Not if you're driving. If you're listening and driving, you get your hand off. Don't do that. Don't do that. You already had
really quick. You're fine.
You already had a near miss from a couple of jokes that we told a while ago. I appreciate that. But listen, now that you're focused, get there safely, then tweet it out. All right. I'll call you in like 30 minutes and be like, hey, did you get home safe? Did you get to work safe? Now tweet out the damn thing.
It'd be very funny if you just went through everybody who listens to Geekscape like once a week and we're like, did you get home safe? Are you good? Did you do whatever I told you to do?
Just calling everybody up.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. And check and check.
Imagine he's getting a lot of, do we pay for international calls anymore? A very high phone bill.
No. Our own Garrett Briones, he's a kid who does this Masters of the Media podcast on our network. He asked me for a job recommendation. He was one of my former film students, and now he's working pretty diligently at the Geekscape stuff. And he wants to get paid for his work, though. And so he is going to apply for this job in the film industry. And he said, will you write me a recommendation? So I wrote him a recommendation letter, and I sent it. And I said, hey, is this...
Oh no, it looks like Jonathan has just popped out. This is interesting. I'm so curious to know if the Zencastr is still going to be going on this, but it looks like Jonathan is back.
This is what happens as I'm trying to swipe over to the comments. I end up two-finger swiping on the screen remote and on my mouse pad, and it just it's basically the back button on your browser, and it kicks me out of stream.
Welcome back to the show.
I got a little bit of rug pull,
but was gonna drop.
No,
I was actually shocked that we were still running. I was like, there must be something still going.
Geekscapists who are listening to this are like, I didn't notice anything. It's
Someone please make a GIF of Katie and me just being like.
But did you see the look of shock and terror that I was like, I don't know.
Listen,
I have no clue.
Katie, listen. Most of the people who listen to this podcast, they don't watch this. The host is too ugly. So I
told you were looking very nice today.
Thank you. Thank you. By your kind Canadian standards. And Katie, well, she needs to be nice because what other podcast is she hosting? So listen,
wow.
We got to do this. All right. All I was going to say was Garrett Briones, I wrote him a recommendation letter, and hopefully he can stop living on my couch. No, he's a good kid. I look out for the Geekscapists. And when they stay too long, I let them know.
You give them their own podcasts.
Okay. Geekscapists, this is all I got for you. This is all I can offer you.
Your undying love.
Aurora and the Eagle.com. I think it's indentured servitude at this point. After 15 years, I think it's pretty much indentured servitude.
I mean, isn't that all jobs in the entertainment industry at the end of the day?
Amen.
Yeah. All right, slaves. Ashley, where can we follow you on socials?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok, because I definitely understand TikTok, at Ashley V. Robinson. The V is very important. Ashley Robinson is a tall WNBA player. I don't want to fight for SEO, but if you know her, I want to meet her. So introduce us. And then head over to auroraandtheeagle.com. We have 15 days left, and our next stretch goal is at $10,000. So help us find it.
Katie, where can we find you?
You can always find me at ElSassyPants, ElSassyPants, unless it's TikTok, and then you have to put a Z at the end for other reasons. We're getting kicked off of TikTok with the original account. But yes, follow me. You can also, I'm going to be sending out an article on fandom pretty recently for Horizon Zero Dawn, but also for Horizon Forbidden West. And I will be in a pilot episode of a show that should be coming to Amazon Prime, and hopefully be able to talk about that soon.
I can't wait. I can't freaking wait. Geekscape, you can find us at Geekscape. Just search for Geekscape on your podcatchers. Leave us 5-star reviews. And that really helps our visibility. It helps us get good guests like Ashley to come on the show and not think that we're wasting their damn time. And I'm at Jonathan Lynn on Twitter, but just search Geekscape. That's what I want you to do on all the socials, so you can find us and be a part of it, because we did this for you. All right. Geekscape forever. That's all I got. I love you. For Ashley and our good friend Katie, over and out. Peace.